Hello, and welcome to Mutual Exchange Radio. This is Alex McHugh, and today I have a special interview for you that is a little outside of our normal schedule. I was able to sit down with C4SS Russian writer and translator, who we refer to as Citizen Ilya. You may remember the full-length interview we did with him about a year ago. This time around, we're discussing the Russian invasion of Ukraine, anarchist resistance to war, and what things look like for everyday Russians under both sanctions and Putin's regime. I can't say enough how thankful I am to Ilya for taking the time to record this with me. We hope that it will clear up some small part of this mess for our listeners and reinvigorate our dedication to opposing war and empire wherever it stands. We will still be releasing a standard episode for March, with Corey Massimino interviewing economist Abigail Devereaux on her work in complexity economics. So look out for that at the end of the month. And without any further ado, let's get into this interview. Oh, well, thank you so much for recording with me today. I can't express how much I appreciate it. And I'm thinking we should probably just hop right in unless there's anything you want to talk about before we do that.
Hey, thank you too. Just ask the questions.
Okay. All right, so the first one I have, and this is partially just because, I was off camping. I haven't been paying super close attention. I've tried to catch up as much as I have, as much as I've been able to. But, maybe for both me and the listeners, you could give us a brief recap of where things are right now, some of the biggest developments with the invasion or with what's happening in Russia, and just kind of catch us up.
Right now, you see, it's just the war going on, and finally, it even got to the stage of negotiations. At least it is at this stage, but it is problematic because the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine is still it's not going well. They didn't agree about anything. And we still don't know really what they have been talking about. But still the Russian forces bombing the Ukrainian cities. It's still the people dying inside Ukraine. I don't really follow much of the news because it's really shocking and you just don't need that much to know. The last news been always the same. It was mostly some new events, okay, but mostly it was the deaths, fighting, army. That's what you see.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know one of the things I've been paying attention to is, a lot of the news that comes out isn't particularly accurate. And we've been talking a little bit about some of the disinformation that's going on, both around neo-Nazism in Ukraine, around what's happening in Russia. So, yeah, is there anything that you want to say just on the topic of following news, trying to get accurate information about the various disinformation campaigns that are going on right now?
It's really hard to get the accurate information, really, because the both sides, let's say, let's separate them by the Russian medias and the Western media. They all just go into this information war. And it's really hard to get the right things. But of course, all you can just mostly see what will be most likely be true is the videos, of course. And it was really very, very rough about the neo-Nazis in Ukraine. I don't really buy it and just don't even know how it came to the West, this propaganda that those in Ukraine are just the neo-Nazis. It's okay to fight them because of ideology, but everybody been talking about Azov, of course. and it was mostly it. I don't know. It is really strange for me, but I guess it's the Russian media that was mostly just pushing this agenda. It should just really be. I don't even know. It's really hard to get the truth out of this. But of course, if you see the videos, if you see the photos, it will be most likely be more truthful than just some words that you see inside the text.
Right, right. And that's something we've been hearing a lot too. I've been surprised how many Americans have bought into some of the disinformation about things like, the Azov battalion being representative of all Ukrainians. And it's so silly because we have huge white supremacist neo-Nazi problem here. And it would be exactly the same if, somebody invaded us tomorrow, there would be a neo-Nazi battalion, right?
Yeah.
Probably the same is true in Russia, I imagine.
Yeah, of course.
So kind of as a follow-up, well taken, make sure you're looking at videos, looking at photos, not just the text. Are there any particular sources, that you look to as being more trustworthy or that might be worth looking into for folks who in particular don't read Cyrillic?
Oh, I don't know. I just try to look the channels I was following on inside the Telegram messenger, but of course it's just sources that are in Russian language, of course, or sometimes even the Ukrainian language. And mostly I just rely on the information by the comrades, the friends I know, just who still participate against the war, say, or even just fighting.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And this is maybe a good point to pivot to some of the resistance that is going on in Russia. I don't know how much you will be able to speak to specifics, but whatever you're able to tell us about the resistance that's going on, about the kind of repression you folks are facing. I'll just kind of open it up and wherever you want to start with that.
Oh, it's very difficult time right now for even the political movements. You see, of course, that there was a lot of arrests and just detainments of people who go to the streets to protest the war. The struggle right now is at the same time the little, and I can only say bad things about the current protests because they are not well organized. The movements are just there's no such not much movements that fight the war actually, and self-organization is just very low right now. I mean, I have only seen only a couple of movements that that grew up because and of course created during the conflict. So it's really rough. Again, I just see a lot of my friends and comrades just getting detained, and they of course all just be mad. Not of course that they got detained in again. They're mad that they're just alone struggling against the state who did aggression against Ukraine. They're just mostly mad that people don't really give a fuck, for example. I mean, the majority of people, it's right now the protest movement is just the minority of people protesting and opposing the war, and it's mostly in Moscow and St. Petersburg. The smaller cities are just still sleeping. There were barely doing any protests, and of course they all get detained if somebody does that. Right now, maybe you've seen the statistics that say that Russia is the most sanctioned country right now in the world. But it's not actually. The problem is that most of the sanctions go against the common people. I mean, the first one that was coming, the sanctions against all the officials. It was really not that much compared to what got against the people. I mean, it was this last week was just when of course when the Vasa announced that the bank accounts, the credit cards, and etc., just going to get disconnected with the SWIFT system. It was very hard for most of the people. The most big problem coming right now to Russia is that most likely the people are going to get cut off from the internet. It can be done by the Russian government or just the West world, I don't know, but it's the chances are actually big. Everybody's been crazy about it the last days.
Yeah, so for folks listening, we had a little bit of a cutout there, but I think we got the gist. The main worry is the internet is going to go out, everything's chaotic, grocery stores are starting to be empty. Do you think that this kind of pressure will start to wake more people up and get them involved, or do you think that it's just going to drive them further into the corners and further quiet?
It's really unpredictable because, I mean, everybody knows that, and of course some people are just still brainwashed, okay, but it's a matter of time that when they will know the truth that the Russia attacked the Ukraine, not the opposite thing, because the state media tells that it's Ukraine who attacked Russia. But anyway, I mean, that's the good point to just already start protesting, but the people are not getting to the streets. It's not about that they are afraid, but they support the war because they know the opposite. And of course, it's just literally unpredictable. It can be all just the whole situation, the sanctions and stuff, etc. Just get the people more mad at the West and be more supportive about the government. Otherwise, of course, if it will be more problematic, the products will get more higher in price. They will just start disappearing. So maybe the people get to the streets because, I mean, it's if you have nothing to eat, what can you do? You will, of course, ask the government, what the hell, where's everything? Because in Russia, actually, most of the supermarkets are it's mostly one monopolized. They're all monopolized mostly by the one corporation that is pretty linked to the government.
Yeah, I see. If we can go back a little bit to the line that Russian people are being sold by the government, that this started from an attack from Ukraine. So my understanding, and you can tell me how correct this is or what else they're saying, but my understanding is that propaganda was that Ukrainians were attacking Russian speakers, ethnic Russians, in some of those contested regions. Is that what you're talking about, or was there more going on there? I guess what is the actual propaganda line in Russia? Is it just about that, or is there something else going on?
Something else, and I'm not sure because it's it's somewhat an abstract propaganda. I don't know. I never really looked at what was actually what they told. But anyways, you just hear the same thing, that it was like that. You hear it from the captured soldiers, or you just hear it by the common people saying it on the streets. I mean, in some how do I say? I mean, not during the protest, of course, but if you just, when you ask for the public opinion on the streets, okay, they're just some people are just literally saying that without any explanation. So that's the problem. I don't really know.
Oh wow, okay. So it's not even anything specific. It's just this general idea that this is in
Let's
response
say,
to.
I guess right now, is I think maybe the propaganda was trying to say that they attacked even. It gets more bizarre, okay, but one thing I can guess of is that Ukraine just attacked the Donetsk People's Republic or Lugansk People's Republic. It's one thing I can think of. Second thing that I was sometimes maybe hearing for the first days, that it was Ukraine who attacked the Rostov region inside Russia.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, that is one I hadn't heard before. But okay, so they're saying it's about both Donetsk, Luhansk, but also attacks within Rostov. Okay. Well, and this is maybe a good point to talk a little bit about the piece we published just a few days ago. So we'll put this in the show notes for folks. It's a piece called Donbass Recognition, No Thanks. And you made some predictions there that turned out to be not quite correct about what Putin is even trying to do with this invasion and with this propaganda and all of that. Since you wrote that, are you willing to hazard a different guess, or try to imagine what the motivation is, or what he is even trying to do with this? Because yeah, I remember one of the things you talked about in that essay is just not really seeing the point of trying to retake these regions.
Maybe I was a little bit. Maybe I made some mistakes, of course, with the predictions, but I was just mostly saying that, and I just thought that it won't be very serious war. I did not even expect that the Russian forces could go to Kiev. I was just thinking that, of course, most likely both of the regions are going to get annexed, and that's all. That's the end for a while. But unfortunately, just go on to the special operation, as it's called by the propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone was surprised by how quickly they went to try and actually encircle Kiev. And from my side, watching that happen, the first couple of days, I thought they were going to be successful, and then I'm surprised that that city has still held out. I'm wondering, I know predicting anything is very, very difficult right now. Do you think there is any sort of line at which the Russian regime would stop trying to take Kiev, or do you think that's fully the goal now, and that's the only goal?
It's not about the Kiev. It's taking, I guess, taking all of the Ukraine, or just doing as massive destruction as possible. I don't know, it's really unpredictable because it just gone out of the, I don't know what's going on inside the head of Putin. He's just gone really crazy. It's fucked up for me, really. I mean, I was just thinking that he's a regular dictator, but I did not even knew that he can be so much of an asshole, just be really crazy about such things. But you see, what's going right now is just the dirty game, really, really dirty. It just I don't even know what the actual fuck. They're just continuing the war. The Putin even announced that the forces are ready to act against the nuclear threat. I mean, you know, it was something like that. But
yeah, and I mean, I think that's the consensus from the outside too, is no one has a goddamn clue why he's doing this. And it you know, it doesn't seem to make sense from any sort of realpolitik understanding of the world, from any sort of, you know, PR understanding of the world. It really just seems like a crazy person doing crazy person things.
But of course, maybe, of course, what the propaganda and everything and everyone just tries to justify the meaning of the conflict is, of course, the imperialism. It's the battle of the NATO influence on Ukraine and the Russian influence on Ukraine. Of course, after the Euromaidan, Russia lost its influence there. And Ukraine just wanted to get more closer to European Union and join NATO. But still, just if you think about it really deeply, why? What's really the meaning? Why should you start the war? Just, I don't know if it's that... if you really need that much, just try to negotiate. I don't know, somehow. I mean, I guess, of course, they were, of course, trying to do that. Of course, I mean, the Russian government, the Ukrainian government, just to try to agree for something. But of course, it's just impossible if you just annex the Crimean Peninsula, try to just do some things, just essay the things. With Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics.
And I guess that's what feels really, really insane about it. You know, from an American perspective as well, feeling like we might get more involved, or the U.S. government might get more involved. I've already had older friends ask me if I've been drafted yet because they're assuming we're going to get involved. And it really feels like we're fighting, you know, it really feels like people are fighting a conflict that hasn't existed for 40 years now, and isn't relevant to anyone who's, you know, young or, you know, even under like 60 years old. Like, it's just not relevant to us. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that's one of the things that makes it feel so insane. And then, yeah, just not knowing what Putin's goal is. We don't have a good idea of when this might end, what to even negotiate around. And yeah, so I think this is a really, really confusing one. And one of the things that has been giving me hope is, you know, the networks of anarchists, both in Ukraine, in Russia, around Ukraine, who are really focusing on the humanitarian side of things, you know, evacuating civilians, getting food and medical aid to people. Are there any projects that you know of like that you would really want to highlight or make sure people know about, that are really focused on just helping ordinary people survive, survive this absolutely horrific situation.
I don't really have much. You just mentioned the one. I guess you tried to mention the Project Solidarity, this anarchist network that just tries to get the humanitarian help. There's only just a few self-organized things. Of course, there's like those who are just fighting against the Russian occupants, the black headquarters. It's self-organized. Let's say even the battalion of anarchists. There's, as I mentioned, some Project Solidarity, and that's actually the end. There's not so much the big projects. Others are just connected to these self-organizations. The help from Russia doesn't really go that much. We don't yet organized anything inside Russia to help the Ukraine. I only heard that Anarchist Black Cross in Moscow just was fundraising the money for the humanitarian help, and that's just it. I just only saw that inside the Russia.
Yeah, I mean that's the one, and I'll put this in the show notes as well. Project Solidarity or Operation Solidarity. I know they are in contact as well with Moscow Food Not Bombs, and so my hope is that they will be increasing coordination between the two. But yeah, that's all I heard of as well. What you mentioned a moment ago something called the Black Headquarters. What is that? Because yeah, that's one I don't think I've heard of before.
Yeah, maybe you heard of the Resistance Committee. It's the same thing as the Black Headquarter.
Okay, yeah, that sounds more familiar. So it's also called the Resistance Committee. Okay.
Yeah, and just the self-organized battalion. It just right now, it's just a few anarchist groups combined to struggle against the Russian occupants. There's I guess there's inside of the organization there's ultras, the Hoods clan, and also 3 other anarchist organizations. The ultras are just anti-fascists, and others are just pre-existing anarchist organizations like Revdia. And right now they're just trying to fight. Last time they tried to raise the money for their supplies, let's say.
Awesome. Yeah, I will if you have any sort of links to send later that I can put in the show notes, that would be wonderful. But yeah, really, part of the reason I wanted to sit down and record is so that we can start to tell people some of these stories and show people where the resistance is happening to whatever extent that it is safe to do so. Because that's, the biggest issue that I run into in the US is radicals on one side saying, we're all for Russia, Ukrainians are fascists, and radicals on the other side saying, we're all for Ukraine, all Russians are pro-Putin. And so that's, I really wanted to sit down with you and get to show people that that is absolutely not the case, really on either side of that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So these are all the questions I had sort of planned out. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we talk about, or a direction that you want to go next? I'm also thinking we'll probably keep this relatively short. I'm sure you need to sleep. But yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, those who have even like not only the anarchist positions, but just some other views. Like, I don't know, if you're just a liberal, of course you oppose the war inside Russia. Everybody who is political, they are just against it. It's not even the thing about the anarchists. It's also, of course, I'm not even talking about the Ukraine. It's just the West that just some people are just really brainwashed, but some do follow the actual more proper information.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I hear you that it's really frustrating right now to try and have a conversation when we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know we don't know what's going to happen. Or what would help.
We only just can predict, yeah. We don't really know what's going to happen, but all I can say right now is the only way to stop the war is just to get rid of the Putin's regime, but it's right now just impossible. That's the problem. The worst thing that can just go if the NATO is going to just get their soldiers there inside the Ukraine. I just really guess that if that would happen, it will lead to far worse conflict.
Yeah, that was my assumption too. That and I think you said this in the Donbass recognition piece. Really, the only thing that makes this better is Putin losing support in Russia, because I think you're absolutely right that were NATO to get involved in a more serious way, were the U.S. to do anything besides continue to send weapons, I could see this getting out of hand very, very quickly. And maybe it's worth talking about what some of those risks are, if you don't mind. NATO escalation. What would that look like? What kinds of problems would that cause, and why is that something that you're not looking forward to?
Yeah, I was just only thinking only about the most simple thing that just can just pops out in your head. Of course, if the NATO places its soldiers, because how unpredictable and how dirty the Russian army doing inside the Ukraine, they can just shoot them. It won't be a problem anyhow. They just won't give a fuck because. The people who go to war just they don't think about anything. They have no head upon them because they're just all brainwashed and clueless about what's really happening. So that's the reason why it can happen. But of course, it will all be up to NATO what to do with that. If it's going to be a relevant scenario of the things that their soldiers are going to die, it all just let's say even that is somewhat a provocation, and they can just shut up about it. Just don't even talk about it, just be secretive about it to not escalate the conflict, or they can do the opposite, of course. Just tell everyone that of course before that they will just announce that the forces will enter the Ukraine, I don't know, and even I guess it won't happen until they will agree to the Ukraine to join NATO, but still let's just continue talking about this scenario. So of course it's going to be more looking like a World War III, because they will, if they escalate the conflict this side, it's going to be fucked up. The Russia, of course, after that will just seek the help, because it's like entire military alliance against one country. Of course, they will seek from the help from even like the China. actually right now just Russia and China was last years in very good relationships, really. And of course, I guess if the China will go to that risk, it will be heard to World War III. It is the most simplest scenario, and of course, it's not that. It's not really smart to assume such thing, but still, it's like what I was thinking of. This is the simplest thing. So of course it's just up to NATO or just Russia to just do the provocation against each other inside the current conflict, but still Russia's plans just to continue this war. But of course I'm even guessing that Putin wouldn't want to escalate it more further. But still I don't really know.
Yeah, no, and I guess we will find out together. I mean, I think that's yeah, I hear you. The most likely, most scary, most simple advancement is going to be something that looks like World War III. And maybe from there, possibly as our last question, what are you doing right now to take care of yourself, to calm down, to detach? Yeah, what's giving you hope and keeping you sane?
Just try actually just do not look into media. And of course not think about another person getting detained for nothing. Not thinking about what laws are getting into let me explain. Okay, you may heard that if you even like do anything to like shouting the anti-war slogan or just even typing something anti-war, something against the Russian army, you can get to jail from like, as I remember, even from 3 years to 15 years. It all depends on how hard, what kind of stuff you will do, but still, if you just I guess even just shouting the anti-war slogan is just enough, but still there's no, right now there was no such criminal cases going, but still it is most likely that it will happen soon, the first criminal cases. Maybe it even happened right now, maybe it even happened 1 hour ago, but I don't really know what to do right now. I'm just trying to distract myself. That's the thing. I'm just trying to not look at the media. I just try to enjoy myself and regular life more because, of course, it still pops up inside my head. When will all stop? When the people will stop getting hit by the rockets and the bombs by the Russian forces inside Ukraine. When we'll just get enough with this regime. I'm worrying about, of course, those who are in Ukraine, those who I know. I worry about my family too. And of course I worry about even like the poor people, because fuck, I'm myself not that rich. I'm not like middle class guy, and it all just will get more difficult for everyone. You see, hang on. The main emotion I have is just even the hopelessness sometimes. It's of course even the anger mixed with that. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, I can't imagine what it's like to be there right now and to be fighting that hopelessness. I hope it helps a little bit to know that people all around the world are going to listen to this and are with you and are rooting for you. Um, and I don't have anything better to say about it than that, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah, it's not the problem, of course. Of course, it's at least it's some actions, and they're just great.
yeah. Well, all right, I'll let you go rest and distract and whatever you need to do. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yeah. Fuck the state, fuck the war,
Fuck the state,
and
fuck the war.
how we mostly was saying it in Russian, хуй войне.
Huivania?
Хуй войне.
Huivania. All right.
No, хуй войне. Хуй
Hui?
войне. It's the хуй.
We might be
It's
here
the
forever
swearing
if we try to
word.
get me to pronounce that correctly. It's the nya I'm not doing? Yeah. Oh, Huivania?
Войне.
Wanya. I'm trying. Practice.
Almost, yeah. It's still good. It will just require like I don't know, to repeat it 10 times, I guess.
Okay.
It is хуй вой не.
Hui, voi, nya. Closer?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll practice, and for now,
Хуй войне. Хуй войне.
Huivania.
Let it be something like. You can find this slogan on the t-shirts or just other merch of the. It was wearing the members of Tattoo Band. If you know that one, it was famous at some time.
Yeah, I love
It is.
tattoos.
Yeah. They was wearing it, and it just got popularized again. They were wearing it during the, I guess, the Second Chechen War.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'll go look for that photo, and I'll practice saying that because that's a good one to know.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. I'm going to try and turn this around as quickly as I can. And I'll just note for folks listening when we do get this out, we're recording on Tuesday, March 8th. So this was recorded Tuesday, March 8th. My hope is to get it turned around by Thursday. And yeah. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and major thanks to everyone who supports this show and everything we do at the Center for a Stateless Society. It goes without saying that we wouldn't be able to do any of this without your support and without the connections that you help us to create. I just want to note right here at the end that we are hoping to make this a two-part series. We're currently discussing with some folks on the Operation Solidarity side of things how to get them in for an interview as well. So I'm not sure when that will happen, but look out soon for a part 2 with Ukrainian anarchists on the same subject.